All right, what's going on, everybody? We're back. I mean, we've done this, what, 2, 3 weeks in a row now? Well, actually, we missed last week, but whatever. It is now a constant on the network. You guys are tuning in, you're new to it and everything. We are now Integrity Sports Network. Bases Loaded podcast where we get you kind of ready for the baseball season, even though it's sort of started already, but like the official opening days like next week. So we're going to treat it that way. But before we get into everything, and I introduce you all to the crew tonight. We have definitely some topics to talk about. We were talking a little bit before. It's kind of easy to forget baseball right now with March Madness and everything going on, but we have a story involving probably the biggest star in the league that we'll get into. We have a player who was talking about kind of the situation in Miami, I guess last season. We'll talk about that, and then since it is a week out from everybody else getting underway, we'll definitely get into some predictions, projections, some picks, and all that for the divisions. So before we get into those topics, Trajan, how are you doing tonight?
Wisconsin, man. Weather's shit. We're good though. We're kicking. It's all good. We got March Madness going on. I mean, we're excited about baseball, but March Madness is going on. It is a
Yeah?
fantastic time of year. I mean, just crazy. You could sit on your couch. I figured it out. I don't remember who was talking about it the other day, but watching multiple games at the same time. If you have the March Madness live app on your TV, you can watch. They do it's like
Mm-hmm.
NFL Red Zone. They'll flip from game to game and like get you to the best action, even though sometimes there isn't any good action. So I think great, fantastic. But yeah, all good all the way around here.
All right. Aaron, how are you doing tonight? Trajan just talked about March Madness and all the craziness going on there, but how are you doing otherwise?
Yeah, I mean, I can't necessarily complain about the weather compared to Trajan's situation. I mean, we've been kind of floating around the 40s, which after we had a week of 60s is like, it's a little bit of a ball buster, but at the end of the day, I mean, I'm ready for baseball to start. Nothing to take away from the South Korea games, but I'm ready for baseball to start in the US of A. And the regular season to just commence, because I don't know about you guys, but I think this year is going fast, but at the same time it feels like baseball just needs to start already. Like, it's just, we're dragging our feet a little bit. So
Yeah, I mean, that is kind of a good point. The season, I mean, not the season, but the year seems like it is flying. I mean, basically into April already. But look, we're right there, right before all the teams get going. And like I said, before we get into predictions and all that, got to talk about this Shohei Ohtani stuff because I don't know necessarily what to think about it. It's just weird because I was watching First Take this morning. They had some number one. I didn't even know ESPN had like an investigation department where they had a lady on from like ESPN Investigations talking about it. Where so I guess just to catch up, everybody listening and or watching. So Shohei Otani's translator apparently gets in a bad way with some bookies. Sounds like a movie, technically, but gets in a bad way, gets in a jam, needs money, like 4.5 million, goes to Otani for it. Otani helps him out. Then the translator's like, "Oh no, Otani didn't wire me any money. He didn't even know about it." A lot of fuzzy details there, but it definitely seems like the translator is trying to take the fall for it, and raises some interesting questions. A dude who just signed for 700 million. Why would you allow anybody other than yourself to have access to your money? It's the first thing. I mean, that's wild right there. But I guess I'll start with you, Trajan, on this one. Like, is this? I mean, obviously, it's not the look baseball wants right before they have this big opening day because we know ESPN will run like a triple header or whatever 5 games that day. So, what about this story? Okay, let me start with this. What do you feel about this story? Let's start there.
Well, I was listening to the Dan Patrick show, and I heard from one of the reporters they had on there that the checks that were signed to loan the money, and they were signed from Ohtani, but not spelt like we know Ohtani. They took off the H. It was just Otani. That's how all the names were spelt in the checks. So that raises a question. Also, we've heard two different stories now, right? We've heard what Ohtani has said two different times now. And why the translator was available to speak to an ESPN investigative reporter, I have no idea. I don't know what was going on there, but to have a full 90-minute sit down and be able to talk to these, that was ridiculous. I mean, that's ridiculous to me just to hear that. But when you have multiple, I think, and it sucks to say because I think Otani's a nice guy, but there's more to this story than what's actually ever going to come out. That's the thing. The MLB is going to squash it. They're going to get rid of this. They have the translators already taking the fall. They're going to get rid of this as fast as they possibly can. And Otani's just going to go on with it. And I don't know if Ohtani did anything truthfully bad, but you look at, I mean, I've seen a lot of people comparing it to like Pete Rose with what Pete Rose and why he's excluded from the Hall of Fame and everything like that. This is around that same realm. No, he did not bet on the game of baseball, according to all the reports. It was on like soccer and some NBA and some NFL, those kind of things. But still, I mean, it's the same concept. Betting isn't allowed in the state of California, and it was still happening in California. So if Ohtani's even backing him to just help him with his debts, right? What do you think a gambler is going to go and do with money if you give them more? If you're at a casino and you give this guy money who already lost it all, what do you think he's going to go do? He's going to try to double it, right? He's going to go back to the slot machine. He's going to go try to do it a little bit more. You're just feeding it. So I get it. Maybe he was trying to be a nice guy at the end of the day, but not a good look. Not a good look at all. And I don't think it's a good look on the MLB to just basically like, we're going to squash this thing. We're going to blame the translator and walk away. I think that's a bad look too. There has to be a full investigation. I know they're going to the attorney and everything like that, but there's no comment from the attorneys or any like law enforcement so far, but they got to go somewhere deeper with this entire thing.
Yeah. I mean, Aaron, based on what you've heard about it, do you believe the interpreter's side of the story that, Ohtani was just I guess like an unwilling victim who didn't really do anything, but maybe just try to help him out a little bit? Unknowingly.
See, my gut feel like we all kind of form our opinions. Like, I thought your guy Tom Brady was probably an a-hole, right? He might be a nice guy. I don't know. And like Ohtani is posed to everybody as like, this guy is squeaky clean. He doesn't do anything wrong. Now, like when a story like this surfaces, like I always like to really consider the two sides of the story. And then, there's probably there's one truth, and then there's Ohtani's side and the interpreter side. And then the truth is probably somewhere in the middle of all that. The way I don't know, the fact that like, he's Ohtani's interpreter, comes to America, Ohtani's, playing for the Angels, to say that like he never asked him about a game that Ohtani was going to participate in. Like, hey, do you think, what do you think about your chances tonight? Like, I just think that's far-fetched. Like, there's no way that conversation didn't happen, in my opinion, just because like that's like he plays in the MLB. The interpreter, quote unquote, needs that money to pay off debts. So if he really needs to win a bet, he's not going to ask Ohtani who's playing, is Manchester United going to win tonight? Like that just doesn't sound like logical to me. So I have to go with my gut there and really think that, I mean, I'm not, it's hard to compare it to a Pete Rose situation because like Ohtani's one play, and I get like Pete Rose was pulling the strings as a manager. Like he could be like, well, I need to win money tonight. I'm going to go with this guy. And even though he should probably rest tonight, I'm going to put him in the ninth inning regardless because I need to win this bet. But it's to me, once, I mean, Trajan hit the nail on the head with, it's not a good look for baseball. Once again, it's a black cloud again. They just find a way to do this time in and time out, and that's just now it's a different type of scandal, and it's right before the season starts. So I mean, it's not ideal, obviously, and I just think like I like Ohtani a lot, and I don't want this to make me feel a lot differently towards him, but I just usually where there's smoke, there's fire, and MLB definitely wants to put it out immediately because they don't want this to drag on. So to answer your question, really, I think they were probably betting on games that Ohtani was playing, just because I mean that's the easiest way I would really think to almost guarantee a win. And I just it's bad. It's if you would have told me that Jordan Montgomery wouldn't be signed, a couple days before the regular season, and Ohtani would be in a scandal right before the season, I wouldn't have believed you. But here we are. So
Yeah, I think like the major thing is this seems like the most baseball thing to happen. You have the game kicking off over in Seoul, South Korea. You have the energy over there, like the crowd over there has been great. The baseball's been high scoring. It's been eventful over there. And then boom, you get Shohei Ohtani wrapped up in what was it like major stealing or something like they kept calling it. And it's just like, why can't baseball get out of their own way? I mean, this is a season with all the money that the Dodgers were spending that could have been a lot of hype behind that team. Now, I mean, maybe this is good for them. Maybe the Dodgers become like the team you hate that everybody just hates, and every time every city they go to, the games feel a little bit more amped because the other team is just really trying to hand them L's or whatever. But for a guy like Ohtani, I mean, not what he wanted right before, right? Well, actually, for him during this season because he's already played. The Dodgers are playing against the Padres now, so I don't know. Baseball's just. I don't know.
You want wild too? You want wild? There's a bomb. There was a bomb threat too, right after it all happened in Seoul, South Korea. They had that bomb threat at the stadium. I mean, if you're a real conspiracy theorist, and there's those guys out there, right? I mean, conspiracy theorists. Talk about something to take your mind off of what's going on the outside with Shohei Ohtani. Give him a bomb threat, right? Because it was apparently a unanimous tip with the police department out there, and that's why they did the search. Didn't find anything inside the stadium, but they got some tip. They didn't say from who, what it was, if it was a phone call, anything like that. Just said that they got this tip, and that's what flooded the news then right after, the Shohei Ohtani big news broke. So definitely, it's a crazy situation. It is all the way around. And, it's just MLB's just trying to cover it up. They just want to shovel this interpreter into the ground. They're done with him. They're like, let's get rid of this guy, and then let's move on. Let's move on here. Ohtani's the face, right? We got to keep our face. We can't have him get hurt. I think it's ridiculous. I really do. It's a mess.
Yeah, I mean, that's all you can really say about it. It's just one big mess, and then probably the worst part of it is once the series ends over in South Korea, there's a few days before we get the rest of opening day. So that's going to be more days for this story to kind of just linger amongst baseball. Now, once we get to opening day, maybe it can kind of fade to the back burner a little bit because that opening day is such a big deal for baseball fans that unless you're watching the Dodgers, you might be like, oh, yeah, I forgot Ohtani's still dealing with that thing. You might be just so wrapped up in your team and, opening day, your hopes are so high. By about the fourth or fifth inning, you're either still up there or it's like that Family Guy episode where Stewie's a Mets fan and it's like, here's the opening pitch, and he throws the hat down. It's like, oh, nuts, the season's over already. So, look, we'll keep monitoring because, we can't really say too much about it because the story is still so new and there's so many like details that still need to be hashed out. Because, like you said, Aaron and Trajan, it's like, basically he bet on everything but baseball. If this guy was as big of a gambler as he was, there's no way he didn't bet on baseball. That would be wild to me that he picked every other sport and was like, baseball, you know what? I can't do that. I'm not going to put any money on that. So
I'd bet
like
against the
Stephen A.
Angels
said,
if I was him. I'd
yeah,
bet
like
against the
Stephen A.
Angels. I mean, we're gonna lose.
Yeah, exactly. Because
You don't
Stephen
have
A.
to
was
throw those
asking,
games.
because Stephen A. asked the woman from ESPN investigate like what, like the FBI or whatever that's involved with this. Like, are they trying to find like a ring or something like that? Because that would be even worse for baseball if they found out maybe some of these other players with interpreters. Like, was it some kind of whole thing or other players involved with it? I don't know. This could really blow up in baseball's face. I don't know, man. But
And it's sad because go back last week, the NFL. I mean, we knew the NFL free agency was gonna be, the lights and whistles and everything else. Like it takes all the headlines, but then we're like right. All right, we get out of the hot period of NFL free agency, and then boom, baseball is about to take center stage. Nope. Like, yes, March Madness obviously is right there, but it's like, of all things to have, like the timing of this could not possibly almost be worse. Like,
yeah. Well, actually, speaking of that, with free agency, because I know in our little chat we've talked about this. Jordan Montgomery, Scott Boras, Blake Snell, luckily signed recently, but for Scott Boras, this has to be probably the worst offseason he's had to deal with. And if you were, a client of his, would this offseason put you off to really keeping his services, or do you think maybe it's just a 1 year thing, just an oddity? Start with you, Aaron, on this one.
I mean, it would definitely make me think about it. Like if he was my current agent and let's say I'm going into free agency next year, I'm probably, twiddling my thumbs on, do I want to keep this guy? Where I obviously have conversations with him to where I'd say, I hope we don't have the same approach that you have your other clients going after, because I mean, from all the reports, like Snell would have got a boatload of money from the Yankees and a longer deal, definitely a longer deal. That was definitely reported. So I just, he's going to have to change how he does things, because obviously it's not working. And then Montgomery's not even signed yet. And it's like he pushed the envelope almost too hard, I think, and got either, these teams were just like, all right, I'm out because you're just kind of wasting our time at this point. And then, like I said, Montgomery's just sitting out there. It's like, all right, how much leverage does Montgomery and Boras have anymore? Because the season's going to start next week. It's like, all right, you're going to have to pull the trigger eventually. So I'd probably go a different direction with an agent that, a little bit better track record as of recently, I should say, just because of this whole entire situation right now.
Yeah. Trajan, what would you do with Scott Boras?
I just think, when I look at Boras, it's like he's almost pushing the envelope too much with guys who aren't worth it. I mean, the amount of money that he's asking for. I mean, Cody, I was just looking at the contracts or what they wanted. Cody Bellinger, they wanted over $200 million. I mean, yeah, Cody Bellinger had a good year last year at the Cubs, but if you look a year before that, the dude stunk. He was a stinker out there, right? I mean, it's like that would be like saying Christian Yelich has a good year this year with the Brewers, right? Gets back to his MVP form. Are the Dodgers going to come calling and say, hey, we want to give $300 million to Christian Yelich after one good year, after sucking for years before that? No way. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And you look at even Blake Snell, he wanted $270 million. I'm sorry, Blake Snell's he's not the best pitcher in the league. He's not the worst. He's a top end, but he's not that great. So 270 mil for a guy who's also been injury prone, I'm not spending that kind of cash, especially for a guy, if he gets hurt, he's donezo. He's no use to me anymore. If he gets Tommy Johns, he could be out for the rest of his career. And you could that's why the Garrett Cole contract with the Yankees, I was never behind that one. I mean, I thought that was way too big of a deal for a starting pitcher. You look at Shohei Ohtani, that's a different kind of animal because the guy can DH too, so it's different. But starting pitchers, I just don't believe, end of the day, you can give them lots of years, lots of money, because I just feel like you have that What happens if he gets hurt? Now I'm out of this so amount of dollars there. I mean, Matt Chapman too, another guy. He wanted 150 mil. I don't think Matt Chapman had a great year last year. So you go out asking for 150 mil. Maybe he was the best third base free agent out there, maybe, but still, I don't think he's worth 150 mil plus from any team out there. No good team's going to pay for that. They'll bring in somebody else. I believe JD Martinez is one of his clients too, right? I thought JD Martinez was, and he just got
so.
He just got 1 year, 12 mil from the Mets. I believe that was a contract I just saw come across. So, I mean, his guys are getting, in all reality, his guys are getting not so top dollar anymore. And that's what really needs to put underneath the magnifying glass is that are his guys really that good? And that's how I think MLB teams are starting to show here is like, you aren't worth this dollar amount. We'll wait for you to bring it down, and then we'll bring you in. Like you guys were talking there with Blake Snell. I mean, it was like 170 mil from the Yankees over 5 years, I thought. Something like that. Something along those lines. And now he's 62 mil over 2 years. Major drop off. And then you had Cody Bellinger with the Cubs. He wanted over 200 mil. He only got 80. I mean, just 120 mil difference between what they wanted and what they had to come down to. That's ridiculous. I mean, just ridiculous what they're asking for, because I think MLB teams are actually, I think the contracts that these guys are getting are actually right. I really do. I think they're right for the player that's coming to town.
All right. I mean, yeah, I definitely agree with you all. And for Boris, this either was a humbling offseason or maybe he just goes next year, it just goes even further, like over and beyond what he did this year. Maybe in his mind, he's like, I wasn't too aggressive enough and my guys suffered. I mean, look, he's still kind of the super agent of MLB. So I'm sure this offseason is not going to completely hurt his, client list or anything like that. But it's kind of something to watch the next offseason if teams are kind of turned off to Scott Boras and his clients. And if that's the case, then, we'll probably start seeing some players jump ship. But until then, yeah, he's sleeping well. So now let's move on to another player in Jazz Chisholm. And once again, if you watching didn't hear what happened with him, he was doing an interview. He was talking about a former teammate getting on a teammate of theirs for trying to have some fun. Went to the box, did the Juan Soto, what is it called, like shuffle or whatever it's called, and I think he walked, made it over to the dugout and everything, and a veteran on the team sat with him and was like berating him for doing that. Chisholm comes over and is like, leave the kid alone. He's having fun. So I think that story, signifies something that's really going on in baseball where why is baseball so afraid of personality and having fun? Like baseball's a game if you played baseball, you probably started when you were like, I don't know, a little kid, 6, 7 years old. So the fact that maybe you still have that energy and you want to display, like, why is that such a big thing in baseball? Once again, I know in our chat we talked about some guys who maybe go a little too far. Although I'm one of those who's like, is there really a too far? I mean, if you hit a home run, you pimp it, you take like 3 minutes to walk around the bases. Why not? Enjoy the moment. But what do you think about? Well, sorry, you Trajan on this one. Why is baseball so afraid of these players having fun?
I've always looked at it as there's a line, there's a fine line. There's you're having fun, it's looking cool, and then there's looking like you're a grade A-hole out there. Like Juan Soto's shuffle. If I was a major league pitcher and Juan Soto did the shuffle, the next one is hitting him in the thigh. I mean, that's just where it's going to be. I'll ask him if he can shuffle after I just hit him in the kneecap. Like, that's how I would roll with that. I mean, there's lines, right? You can bat flip all you want. You hit like the Jose Bautista bat flip when he chucked that bat after hitting that home run in that ALCS or whatever it was, ALDS against the Rangers there. Like, that moment, bat flip that baby. Like, that was exciting. That was that moment. I'm okay with that. It's when you take 3 minutes to go around the bases. I don't need to see you do a 3 minute. They're trying to speed up the game of baseball, and we're taking a 3 minute home run trot. Like, I'm pegging that guy next time up too. I like the fun aspect of baseball. I like when guys have fun. They the home run, like they do the gauntlet now or whatever you call it there, where each team had their own thing, and like the Brewers rang a bell and they had a cheesehead for a while. Like I like that. I like when baseball is fun. You can do that kind of stuff. I just think there's that fine line where, and I think it does translate too. You watch the younger generation, and I coach younger kids playing baseball, and you watch some of them, and it's like, I wish you wouldn't have watched this major league hitter do this. I wish you wouldn't have done this because, guys in the MLB, they make it work, right? But they do some things where it's like, I wish you wouldn't do that. And then it translates to the kids. It really does. You watch some of their swings or anything like that. They're trying to emulate some of their favorite MLB stars, and that's fine. But there's some bad tendencies that come in there too. And also in personalities. I mean, nowadays, who doesn't have a pair of pit vipers out there on the baseball field? It seems like it's everybody has got a pair of pit vipers, and they're wearing gold chains. Like, that's how it's got to be. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. I just think, there's some bad things that come out of the game that kids will pick up on. And even the way that players act is some things that kids will pick up on. And those are the things I don't like, because then you have kids come up, they're doing that crap, and it gets them in trouble because they take it to another extent. They don't have, these guys in the MLB, they aren't held as accountable to what they do versus the younger generation coming up through high school or whatever it is. They might do something silly in there and get in trouble for it. And that's where I think there's that fine line. And I think sometimes some MLB players do cross that line where they are acting like a grade A-hole. And then there's that line where, like Juan Soto's shuffle doesn't affect anybody. I just think it looks stupid when he does it. I'm not a fan of it, but that's just me. I mean, there's guys out there like, you do you, man. Like, that's all good. But that's just my opinion on it. Is like, I want the game to be fun, but I want there to be the happy medium of fun versus actually playing the game of baseball and making it look like it's serious at times. It's got to be somewhat serious, right? It can't just be this big old gimmick. It's got to be something when you're watching it.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. But Aaron, how are you feeling about all of the personal celebrations? Like the walk-up music, you have all this kind of stuff. I mean, I will say, Trajan, the whole team kind of having their own little dugout thing when home runs are hit, because like the Mariners had the Trident thing. Thought that was pretty cool. The Red Sox had like the cart that they pushed the players through. So
I love that one.
Yeah,
that like that one. That one's really good, and I feel like that kind of lets each team be kind of their own individual and have their own little thing. But yeah, so Aaron, how do you feel about all that?
Yeah, I think once again, like Tragan hits a couple of things for me that really stand out to me. Like, I'm totally cool with everybody being their own person. Like, some people want to be flashy. That's cool. Like, I don't think baseball should step in and be like, you can't do this, but you can do that. Like, I think you got to allow most of it. Like, I don't see a problem with most of it. I am I guess a purist or whatever you want to call it. Like, I'm cool with the dugout ones. I encourage as much of that as possible, because I'm sure this year we'll see even more creative one. Like, just when you thought like the Orioles were doing like a beer bong last year, which was cool. Just different stuff. Every team does something a little different. Like, just be as radical as you can. Almost. I mean, keep it within reason, I guess, because kids are watching. But it's like, at the end of the day, like I'm okay with most of it, but I don't like when like somebody hits a home run, and I get it. I definitely do get it, because adrenaline's rushing, but they're like just screaming at home plate, and they haven't even like it's a walk-off shot, and they're just like losing their mind. It's like, all right, start running at least. But that's the only thing that's like a pet peeve to me. It's like, all right, do the bat flip, but like keep it moving a little bit. Like, I get it, but like, for whatever reason, like Tatis kind of annoys me the way he's a little bit too much for me. There's a couple guys that I'm not saying you have to play like Aaron Judge is as good as he is. He doesn't do like any of that stuff. It seems like he's just like Mr. Business. I don't think you necessarily have to be like that, but my problem is the guys that do all that extra stuff, like Soto and Tatis, and you better, like, in my mind, you should have to run out every ground ball like it's your last, like you're going to go to AAA next week, because those are the same type of guys that'll be lollygagging. Like Acuna, you see Acuna not running out, ground balls all the time, and I'm like, that bothers me, because like what Tragan said, kind of lit a light bulb in my head. Like, now kids will see that and they'll be like, well, if I'm the best player on the team, I don't have to run out a ground ball. Like, to me, that's a little toxic, because at the end of the day, like, I kind of wish everybody played like Harper with their hair on fire, just because it's more fun to watch, and it really looks like that guy cares. And like some of these guys, I'm not gonna say they don't care, but like Machado, he's another one where it's like, okay, I'm gonna hit a home run, but then I'm just gonna strike out 5 times and like look like I don't even want to really be here. So there is a happy medium. I like I said, I love the dugout celebrations and stuff like that, but I just hope the players show more effort. If they're going to do all that, you better be the guy that's busting his ass down the line to beat out a ground ball. So,
no, I will say Machado is a player I can't stand.
No.
He's like the main one for me. Like, I loved when the Red Sox went up against them. Chris Sale comes in relief. The batter he strikes out to end it all was Machado. I was like, thank you. Like, that was the last dude I wanted to see, like, get a hit, get a rally going. No. He struck
that's
him out
because
with
all
a
the
nice
problems,
slider.
like when he was on the Orioles, like the Red Sox and Machado did not like each other. Like, that was just.
Yep. So I definitely get that. And, in terms of celebration, yeah, I like all of that. And even, like you said, Trajan, where, if a guy does too much, you'd have a guy like, I know we talked about like Nolan Ryan or Pedro Martinez, guys like that who would remember that next time you come up, they will put one like in the middle of your back or something like that. Obviously not headhunting, because, although Pedro might let a couple slip
Nolan
a little
Ryan
too
would
high.
headhunt you. He'd fight you. He'd be ready for a fight. He would take Bryce Harper on one-on-one. Trust me. Nolan Ryan's the dog when it comes to fighting.
Right. And like Nolan Ryan pitched till he was like 45 and it was still ready to take on. Like, I love watching.
I wouldn't mess
like
with him now when he's old. I wouldn't mess with that guy now. He'd still kick my ass right across the baseball field. Like, I ain't messing with that guy. Like, I mean, that was a big thing for me too, is like the way that pitchers react nowadays too. It's not the same as it was. Back in the day, they'd go after you. You did something stupid like that, they'd go after you. Like, you were talking standing at home plate and screaming there after you hit a bomb. Like, if you came up the next time, even if it was Nolan Ryan 2 weeks later, he'd hit you 2 weeks later just because he remembers that day. Nowadays, guys are too, and that comes with the competitive edge too of all sports, but baseball too, is that do guys really, it's like hustling out a ground ball. Do guys really care that much anymore? Or is it about a payday? I believe with a lot of these guys, it's just about a payday. What they do in between, whatever. I mean, they might hit 200, they might hit 300. That's fine, but I'm going to get paid at the end of the day, so it's all good with me. I don't have to hustle out this ground ball, even though the odds makers will tell you that if you hustle it out on a ground ball to third with your speed, there's a chance you might beat it. They don't care. They're just going to jog it out, jog back to the dugout. That's fine. So, I mean, just the competitive edge, too, in the game of baseball. I think that's one of the things that's been lost over time here, and that's something that needs to get back, because I think that'll take the game to the next level once again.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I feel like the great memories in terms of baseball were always kind of those testy moments. For me, I always remember the Veritek one with A-Rod. When somebody threw a little high and tight, A-Rod got upset, Veritek on his face, turned into a whole brawl. Like, that's the kind of stuff that, for the kids and some parents, like, oh, I don't want to see that. But for me, when I watch, I'm like, that shows a level of rivalry and hatred that you kind of need in sports. Obviously, Boston, New York is a big thing. Chicago, St. Louis, like stuff like that. Those make those series like pop a little bit more. And I think the whole celebration stuff does play into it, because that kind of breeds some of that hatred, depending on kind of how your players are wired. But look, hopefully we get some of that this year. To be honest with you, obviously if we do, we'll have something to talk about. But we got like 25 minutes to go. I feel like enough time to start looking ahead to the new season. And before we get into the predictions and everything, yeah, what have been your thoughts on the Soul Series so far, Dodgers and the Padres? Like, what are your impressions of those two teams so far?
It's on at 5 o'clock in the morning. You think I've watched much of those games yet? I mean, that's the ridiculous part. Is it's on at 5 o'clock in the freaking morning. It's like I'm waking up for work. I'm not saying to myself, "Oh God, the Dodgers and Padres are on right now. I gotta go turn on my TV real quick." No, far from it. I mean, from what I've seen, pitching has sucked. Yamamoto struggled in his
Yeah.
debut with the Dodgers, which I mean, if you're a Dodger fan, puts you on the edge of your seat, right? We got Shohei Ohtani on the verge of going to jail. He might be a crime boss. And we got Yamamoto over here struggling in his first outing. It's like the whole overseas additions to our ball club are falling apart all at once here. We don't know what to do. I mean, it's good. It's good. It's good, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a fan of the. I can't say I've ever been a fan of the overseas games. I got to be honest with you, whether it's NFL or now the MLB, I don't know if I've ever been a fan just because I think it does take away from, I don't know, your fans back home. Because how many Dodger fans are waking up early in the morning to watch that game? Padre fans, how many of them are waking up? I mean, they probably DVR. Dodger fans are a little crazy like that. But still, I mean, it's one of those things that I've never liked, the overseas games. From what I've heard, all good things coming out of it so far. But first impressions is that both teams have their faults so far.
Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, just right there with Reagan, I have not seen a live minute of either game so far. So, I'll flip on the highlights and browse that. But, yeah, I mean, today, 15-11, like I probably wish I would have watched some of that just because I can go for an offensive, slugfest here and there. I think the Padres are they're kind of like the Jets almost, where they're just never going to actually do anything. Like I don't care who they get. They could get Manny Ramirez, David Ortiz, Alex Rodriguez. You could insert every All-Star player in the last couple generations, and they would still find a way to miss the playoffs. I just that's my take on it. Until they prove me otherwise, they're maybe like the Chargers. I mean, they made the playoffs. That was 2 years ago. Yeah, they made it. I don't know. They've been in the mix, but they'll never actually achieve. Like, I don't think they'll go to a World Series. They're kind of like the San Diego Chargers back when they were in San Diego, where it's like they're good. They look like they could be, moving forward, but it's just, I mean, that lineup should do massive damage. Even without Soto, you would think, obviously your guy Bogarts goes over there. They still have Tatis, Machado. Like, it's just, they have sluggers, but now the pitching, I mean, losing Snell's a big one. The Dodgers, I mean, I never count the Dodgers out. Like, Ohtani could be out all year. Yamamoto could be like a ERA of like 4.50 by the end of it, and I still think they'll be in the mix because they find a way. Yeah, but I don't necessarily love the idea of those games over there either. I mean, I get it. I want baseball to grow no matter what that sacrifice is. So if going over there for a series helps the game grow 1%, great. I don't know if it's really doing much, but it's the time. I mean, thank God they didn't put it like right at opening day and like there'd be nobody watching that and just waiting for the games to come on in the USA. So I mean, it's cool. It's just once again, I think baseball could have done something different and got more buzz. Like the NFL would not have done something quite like this because they would just find a way to get a lot more viewers anyway, but they would have a better strategic plan. I just think baseball is once again just thrown together and just we'll see if this works. And then I don't know. It is what it is, but it doesn't get the juices pumping, and I don't think it does for a lot of MLB fans, honestly.
Yeah, I guess it would be kind of interesting to see what the ratings were because, East Coast 6 o'clock. If you're Dodgers or a Padres fan, that's 2 in the morning for you. I mean, maybe if you're a night owl, you're stumbling in late from work. Maybe as you're going to sleep, maybe you turn it on, and that's what allows you to go to sleep. But even then, how much of it are you watching? Like I've seen a few innings. the atmosphere over there has been pretty cool, but that's kind of like how it is over there. Like baseball is like religion over in Asia, so it's not that big of a deal for them to watch teams that aren't necessarily in their league or anything like that. And seeing the fans rocking Dodgers stuff, rocking the Padres stuff, it is cool. But yeah, I wonder if it's something they will continue with next year. Do they go to a different location? Like, we'll see what baseball does. But I guess the only good thing you can say is at least it now gets you sort of thinking about opening day, because baseball is very easy to forget when games aren't actually going on. And yeah, spring training's been happening, but unless you're like a diehard, you're not watching much spring training. I mean, maybe you are. I'm not gonna clown you or anything for it, but for me, I don't need to see a bunch of guys wearing like 97 and 66 batting, and I'm like, in a couple of weeks, I won't even see this guy. So yeah, I'm good on spring training. But
No, and the Brewers have only been on TV, I believe, like 4 or 5 times now. Like, we haven't been able to watch the Brewers at all in spring because they have that whole mess with Bally Sports Wisconsin. They're still trying to figure
that's
out that
right.
whole crap hole.
Yeah,
So, I mean, Bally's got on like billiards or poker or whatever. And it's like, why don't you have the Brewers on? You could be making money right now. But instead, let's watch billiards because everybody wants to watch some guys shoot it around a pool table in the middle of the afternoon. That's exactly what I'm looking forward to. I get off of work, I'm like, I want to watch some guys shoot at a pool table. That's going to be fun. What? Like, what gives you ratings? Pool or baseball? Come on. I mean, even spring training. I'll watch a guy with 97 on his back over a guy swinging a stick at a little white ball trying to knock in some colorful balls into a hole. That's all I know.
And trades, your team's named the Brewers, so I would think like bars are prevalent where you're at. So you can go maybe a couple miles down the road and see that guy shooting shooting
That's what I'm saying. Like, the guys at my tavern are better than the guys on the TV, and yet I gotta watch those guys. I should just live stream my bar, and we can just watch those guys shoot sometime. I mean, come on.
Oh man, baseball.
Yeah,
it's back,
well,
baby. It's coming back.
I think the whole Bally's thing has like crossed over into NBA because some teams who had partnerships with them had some issues with like local games and everything as well. So I guess it's just a Bally's thing all around. But I guess now we can go into the actual rest of the league. So we'll go through the divisions and I guess make some predictions on who we think will win it, and I guess who will be playoff teams and everything like that. So since we were talking about the Dodgers and the Padres, why not just start out with the NL West? So I'm looking at the predictions, and the Dodgers are like the overwhelming favorite to win that division. It's basically 77% for them, 10% Diamondbacks, 9% Giants, and the Padres at 4%. And then in terms of playoffs, the Dodgers are at 95%. And then after that, the Dodgers and Giants are around 50%, the Padres 31%, and then the Rockies 0.1%. So you're saying there's a chance in Colorado. But when you look at this division, do you think like the Dodgers are obviously going to win it? And if you do, who do you feel would be their biggest opponent in that divisional race? Let's go with you, Trajan.
I don't think it's obvious. I mean, okay, I shouldn't say that. It should be obvious, right? The Dodgers spent a boatload of money, but I think the Diamondbacks are a pretty good team yet. I mean, the Diamondbacks are bringing back that young core. They still have the good pitching at the top of the rotation. They're still A-okay. And then the Giants, I mean, they just added some pieces here now. So the Giants are in that for me, but the Diamondbacks are up. I mean, it's not going to be easy sledding. I think the Dodgers will win it, but I don't think it's going to be as easy as what people think, because I think the Diamondbacks and Giants will both hang around there. I don't think the Padres will be a factor. They find a way to screw themselves. They can put together the roster of Juan Soto and Xander Bogaerts and everybody you could possibly think of, and they'll find a way to screw it. That's just what they do. That's that organization in a nutshell. But the Diamondbacks, what we saw last year, I think we're going to get a lot more of that this year, along with the Giants adding Chapman and Snell, both big pieces. I mean, those guys are going to benefit with the Dodgers or with the Giants there, and I think it's going to be a big 3-team race there.
All right. So, Aaron, how do you feel about the NL West? Do you think the Dodgers are the overwhelming favorite? And if you do, who will be their biggest opponent in that division?
Yeah, I'll oppose Trajan a little bit on this one. I think
Ooh.
I think the Diamondbacks were maybe a little bit of a flash in the pan.
Just because they beat my Brewers, now you're gonna call them a flash in the pan. Come on,
No,
Anybody who beats the Brewers is good.
I mean, you're not wrong. They always go on to the World Series. You tell me. So
It's
I
nuts.
take your word
Look
for
it up. It's an actual stat. I can't believe it myself. It's a stat.
I think them going all the way to the World, like, I don't know. I maybe there's nothing to that, but I remember when the Phillies, played the Astros in World Series, and they start out the year like really, really slow, but that's kind of what the Phillies do. So maybe that's just a Phillies thing and not so much any other team thing. But I do think the D-backs will take a little bit of a step back this year. I think the Giants will like leapfrog them. I still think the Dodgers win this division by like 10 games. I just don't. I don't think the other teams have enough ammunition. Like we already talked about the Padres. I have absolute no hope in them. And then, I mean, we didn't touch on it because it's not even worth talking about, but the Rockies are just they might as well be a AAA team at this point. So, it's the Dodgers division to lose. I mean, maybe if he's like 2-12 with a 6 ERA, then it allows other teams to get in there.
And Ohtani goes to jail. Don't forget about that. We still have that on the back burner. Ohtani's still on the shelf right now.
But yeah, I think it's unfortunately, I'm not a Dodgers guy by any stretch. I think they're Yankees West, if anything. And maybe even worse than they spend a lot more money than the Yanks. So maybe I should dislike them more. But yeah, they have too much. Like that lineup. I mean, Freddie Freeman's still there. Mookie Betts, I think, is now playing second base or something.
Yep.
But yeah, they're the Dodgers. They find a way to win that division, and nobody else seems to find a way to out-duel them, basically.
Yeah, I think that's what the division is going to come down to. Which team pitching staff can kind of handle the Dodgers lineup. Because I was trying to pull up their lineup here to kind of let people know what we're talking about in terms of the Dodgers. And here we go. It's not pulling up anyway. Well, because I think with the Giants, you're looking at a team who added Blake Snell, like you said. Also, they added Jordan Hicks, who I believe is going to slot in as your 4 in that rotation. They still have Logan Webb, who's really good at the top of the rotation. So if you can get a really good year out of Webb, Snell, and Hicks, maybe the Giants can do something. I think the biggest issue with them will be their lineup because of the ballpark they play in as well. They don't really put up a lot of home run numbers. So for them, they're going to have to be really good in terms of batting average and situational play where first to third or sacrifice fly here or there. And they're usually pretty good about that. I mean, in terms of their lineup, they added Chapman, of course, so that should bring some pop. They added Jorge Soler, who seemingly, whenever he makes contact, just hits home runs. So it's going to be interesting to see how those two, what their numbers look like in a new ballpark that's just so massive. Like, I know, we're all gamers here. Like, you play MLB The Show, you play out in San Francisco, and that's like the first thing you notice. The outfield is massive. So if they're not going to hit home runs, they better be doubles and extra base hits if they're going to compete with the Dodgers. So I do think that the Giants have a shot there, but yeah, the Dodgers probably should win that division.
I'm more of a Polo Grounds kind of guy myself. I like playing at Polo Grounds. You pull that baby down the lines, but then you try going dead center. You just say, screw it, I'm going dead center. And it's just like this onslaught. You're just running the bases forever, it seems like, because the ball just keeps on rolling. Just keeps on rolling down there in dead center. That's where I love to play. Because if you miss the line, you got dead center all day long. Inside park home runs. Prince Field.
It's like 650 feet to dead center. So like it's got to be something like ridiculous. Like,
oh yeah, it's ridiculous. I take Prince Fielder on there. I just send it straight to dead center and see if I can make it around. That's what I do. Like, get trucking, big fella.
He had a
I mean,
couple of those in his career, right? At least
Yeah,
one.
what was the one? It was at the Dome, and it was at the what was it, Minneapolis, when they had the Dome or something like that. And
I
he hit it.
remember.
He hit it off the roof, and nobody knew where it was. So he just kept on trucking it. It landed just outside the out or just into the outfield. And this guy got an inside the park. I'm like, what is going on right now? And it was nuts, just nuts. Dude's got wheels. What can I say? I mean, come on.
For a big guy, he can move a little.
You
For
can
sure.
truck it. You get that weight leaning forwards, you go.
Right. It's all about momentum.
Forward momentum.
Train going
Yes.
downhill.
All right, so let's get into Trajan's division, the
I know.
NL Central. So Trajan, since this is your division, I'll let you know really quickly where the odds are. If this website will ever pull it up.
They probably got my Brewers in like third, fourth. They might be below the Pirates at this point. I don't know.
I mean, well, as it's coming up, like, where do you think they realistically slot in this division?
I think it's a 3-team race for the top. I think the Cardinals will get back into it. I think the Cubbies now with Craig Counsell will be up near the top. And I think the Brewers are right along with them. I think the Reds are up and coming. I think they're on their way. The Reds always seem to fall apart at some point. It always seems to happen at some point in the year. The Cincinnati Reds will lose all the gas and they're donezo. And I just think I think the Reds might float around in that third spot. They might, this division, I feel like you look at the top four with the Brewers, Reds, Cardinals, and Cubs, there's going to be multiple teams in first place at any point in time, probably for the first like 4 or 5 months of the year. I mean, the Reds might be in first for a while, then they're going to drop off. Cardinals are going to jump, Cubs are going to jump, Brewers are going to get in there. There's going to be teams with slow starts. The Brewers, the starting rotation right now is a big question mark. It's going to take them a while to figure out who's going to fit. We have multiple pieces where we're still trying to see if they're going to be that guy to be a number 4 or 5, like Aaron Ashby. And there's a couple other guys, Jansen Junk's in there, Wade Miley. We don't know all about Wade Miley yet. And if the Brewers make an ad, right, there's still a lot of free agent starting pitchers out there, a lot of affordable contracts. I mean, we've talked about Trevor Bauer. I believe Michael Lorenzen did just sign. I think he signed with the Rangers, I'm pretty sure. So he's off the board, but there's still a lot of good starting pitching out there, like not high end, but solid pieces to add. And I think maybe the Brewers might dip into that at some point here, or even another team like the Cubs or Cardinals, because both of them could still use some starting pitching here and there. I think it's going to be that 3-team race at the end. And I think realistically, you could see the NL Central swinging multiple different ways, just depending on, Cardinals. I didn't expect them to suck last year, and they just outright sucked. And, they're on the rebound, but what tells you how fast that rebound is going to be for them? So I think it's going to be, how do the rookies fare? The Brewers have a lot of guys going in their second years. How do those guys fare leading into this second year now? They could be, we have Jackson Churro slotted to be the starting center fielder for us to start the year, number 2 prospect in all of baseball. How does he right away jump into the lineup and hit? That's going to be a big thing for the Brewers. You have a lot of young guys on that team. How do they work? Christian Yelich, everybody loves him in the state of Wisconsin. I don't, but we'll see how Christian Yelich rolls here to start the year. I think a lot of people shot the Brewers down because they said Corbin Burns was like your entire team. Now you got to replace X amount of wins. Yes and no. I think it's a yes and no thing. I think starting pitchers do get you wins at the end of the day. I really do think they do. But I think I don't know how to say it, but I think he's replaceable. I think you can bring in a guy and replace Corbin Burns. He's a great pitcher, but I saw some bad with Corbin Burns too. I mean, we saw some bad in Milwaukee with Corbin Burns. He got lit up multiple times with the Brewers in his last year, and hitters were starting to figure him out. So, maybe the Brewers, they did it. They've done it before where they get rid of guys and they're like, we aren't going to be affected by this. I think the Brewers will be just fine. I think they'll be in the top 3. And I really do think it's going to be that 3-team race there with Cubs, Cardinals, and Brewers at the end of the year.
All right, so I did pull up the odds here, and kind of like what you're saying, Trajan, it's kind of a mixed bag because they have to win the division. The Cardinals are the favorite at 35%, the Cubs 26%, The Brewers at 18%, Reds at 13%, and the Pirates at 9%. And in terms of making a playoff, they're basically looking at it as a division winner gets in, probably not a wild card. So they have the Cardinals 50%, Cubs 41% to make the playoffs. Your Brewers at 31%, the Reds 21%, and the Pirates at 17%. So, Aaron, looking at this division, because the NL Central every year seems like it's really tight, tight race early on, and then a couple of teams break away. So, who do you think are the favorites in the NL Central?
It's tough to go against the Brewers only because they are usually the team that finds a way to win. I mean, in recent memory, it used to be the Cardinals were a shoo-in every year, and then the Cardinals have kind of gone away. Thankfully, I'm okay with that. For sure. I'd rather
Screw
see
the Cardinals. We don't like them.
I like the Cubs more. If I was gonna go on one side of that, I'd be a Cubs guy over the Cardinals.
Oh, come on, now the Cubs.
The
Be
Cardinals
a Pirates guy. They suck.
I don't know. The Cardinals are kind of like the rich kid to me, and like the Cubs are like they're always the under. Like I love the underdog. So
the Brewers. Cheer for the Brewers, man. We're so underdog. It isn't even funny. Our payroll is less than what one guy makes with the Dodgers.
That's accurate. I don't. I think the Cardinals are decent this year. I don't know if they're gonna win the division. I just don't see them being bad 2 years in a row. Hopefully I'm wrong. I want the Reds to do something, but I don't. I think they're still like a year away. They just have a lot of young pieces, and their pitching rotation is just not. I don't trust their pitching rotation outside of like Hunter Green, and even Hunter Green he's good, but if he's your number one, I think you're kind of in trouble there. I don't know. I mean, it really, to me, it comes down to, the Pirates have no real shot of again. I mean, I'll lean Cubs, but I think it's Cubs Brewers till a couple weeks left in the year to me, unless barring major injuries. And then the Cardinals are like right there as well, but they fade out down the stretch. I hope you're right, Tragan. I just don't know about the pitching rotation with the Brewers outside of Corbin Burns, but they, like you said a couple episodes before, you can book that the Brewers bullpen will be solid. That's like a staple to that franchise, it seems like. Devin Williams is like, I saw him pitch a couple of times last year, and he's an absolute menace. So yeah, I mean, it's Brewers, Cubs. I mean, flip a coin to me.
Yeah, I'm kind of there with you, and I might lean Cubs as well. I kind of like their.
Wow.
I mean, looking at their rotation, obviously, Imanaga is going to be a question mark because we'll have to see how he gets acclimated to Major League Baseball. But you still have Justin Steele, good young pit. Well, pretty good last year for them. Hendricks and then Wicks and Assad 3, 4, and 5. We'll have to see what they look like. But top of the rotation, those two I think could be really good. I think offensively, their lineup, their lineup can do some work, and I feel like that's gonna be what's gonna have to carry them. So I know it's not the answer you may want, Trajan. I will say I do like from afar. I'm always intrigued by the Brewers, mainly because of the home run and then the dude going on the slide and everything. I think their ballpark is pretty nice, and I was a Prince Fielder fan, so when he was there, so I definitely don't mind the Brewers having a good year. Like you said, Aaron, I think the Reds are fun, especially with Ellie De La Cruz. So obviously you'd like them to do well, but I don't think they're ready yet. So I'd probably go with the Cubs in that division. And we're kind of up against the clock. So I feel like next week we'll probably pick up with the NL East and then go American League and maybe get some more playoff predictions. Because at least next week it will be like opening day. So, maybe more people will be in a baseball mood. And hopefully the Ohtani thing goes away. Or as Trajan said, he becomes an episode of Law and Order. I don't know. But,
wouldn't that be something? We come back and we're like, this guy's behind bars. Bracket
we'll
buster, those boys. Oakland beat Kentucky. Are you kidding me? The brackets are busted already. There could not be a perfect bracket. If somebody tells me out there they got a perfect bracket, I want to see it. I want you to send me a picture on email because I don't believe it. There ain't no way. Nobody picked Oakland to beat Kentucky. I had them going all the way to the Sweet 16. I think I had them in the Elite Eight. Son of a. I'm done, Zoe. Bracket's done. Upsets all the way now, boys.
I mean, only if you went to Oakland, maybe you picked Oakland. But yeah, I doubt anybody seriously was like, "Oh yeah, Oakland, of course."
Ain't
They
that
had,
something?
like,
Somebody picked
Okie was
UMBC one year
lighting
to
up.
beat Virginia. Like just a 16 seed said, "Screw it, I'm gonna pick them." Like I mean, you had to have gone there. Nobody's like Kentucky's gonna lose in the first round. Purdue, I
Right.
vote against Purdue. When they lost to a 16 seed, I was like, hallelujah. I had Purdue going to the Final Four. I don't care. They lost. Like now Kentucky's out. Everybody can lose now. Wisconsin's going to go all the way. Everybody else can lose. I'm all good with it. We're all in.
the way
I was trying to see if there's like a stat about how many perfect brackets are left.
Oh, I think it was only at like 9% even earlier today.
Yeah, I know it's pretty low. So the Oakland one probably did it.
Oakland
Actually,
had
I
like
just
5,000.
went to ESPN. They have 12,000 perfect brackets left.
Oh, whatever.
How?
Whatever. Come on.
That's the stat they have on their website. 12,000.
They
Some
better
guy
update
out
that.
there picked it by mascot. They're like, oh, grizzly bear against a wildcat. I'm going to take the bear going up against a wildcat. That's how it's going to be. Like some mascot pick or something. They're like, Oakland. Yep, I got them. Yeah, I watched them all year long. They're fantastic. No, nobody said that. Nobody said that when they were picking brackets. Ugh. I should just watch college basketball. I should just get to the tournament and just pick random teams because that seems to be the way that you got to do it. You watch it and you just screw yourself in the end.
The only thing is, I'm trying to figure out, is that number current with the Oakland score since that just happened? So that number may be wrong. We might have a better number in a couple of hours or so. But
It can't be that many
I mean,
left.
I kind of doubted that too once I saw it. But that's what
There might
ESPN
be
says. I was just
12,000
like,
Oakland fans in the world. There might be. There might be that many Oakland fans. And
And it's-
Duquesne and Duquesne. That's how you say it. Duquesne. There might be that many Duquesne fans out there. I don't even know where Duquesne is. I
think
picked them
it's-
to win, but I don't know where it is.
I'm pretty sure it's Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Ah, interesting. See, you guys out east, you guys know that stuff. Me, I'm middle Wisconsin, man. We don't make it to Duquesne. It's not on the GPS of where I want to go.
From what I heard, Oakland is really in Michigan. Is that right? That
Yeah.
It's not actually Oakland. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not Oakland, California. It's like Oakland. I think it's like a little outside of Detroit. I think. Yeah, it's one of the most confusing college names. Like there's so many of.
So many.
Yeah, I know it's crazy, but I think that's good stopping point. Another episode of the Bases Loaded podcast in the book. Appreciate those of you tuning in. I know it's kind of crazy right now with March Madness going on, plus the network change. So I think people are kind of slowly figuring all that out. So hopefully by next week, the Facebook side of it can go live, and I feel like that will help out. But definitely appreciate Jory, Key, who are in here, and those who may watch this after the fact. Definitely appreciate you as well. Make sure you go ahead and like or subscribe to Integrity Sports Network. It's all the shows you love, just a different name, so you don't have to worry about any crazy changes all of a sudden. But Trajan, you got anything before we get out of here?
Brackets are busted. We're having fun. It's cold in Wisconsin, and it's a grand old time. It is fantastic. Baseball is almost back. Next time we talk, it's going to be here. It will be here. Opening day will be here. Not this crap in Korea. I'm not talking to crap in Korea as opening day. That's not opening day. That is the worst opening day you could possibly make up in your head. I want to start at 5 o'clock in the freaking morning on opening day. No way. March Madness doesn't even start at 5 o'clock in the morning. MLB shouldn't, but hey, it's fantastic. It's great. It's great. Baseball's back. March Madness is here. It's awesome. It's the best time of year, right? It's the best time of year. Next week, I'm hoping my Badgers are still alive. Otherwise, I will be very upset when I come back onto the show.
All right. There's a tease for next week. Aaron, how you have anything before we get out of here?
I'm ready for real baseball, like Tragan said. I mean, it's just enough spring training, enough number 77 that's going to be in Double-A the rest of the year. You know, we've come to the point now. It's like they should just start on Monday. Let's just, a couple more, maybe one more game on Saturday, spring training, and just MLB's like, you know what, Ohtani stuff's going on. Let's just push that to the side, start the season so there's less smoke and get it underway already. Because I don't know, maybe I'm just being impatient like always, but it's like, come on, let's just get it going. But good for Oakland though. I mean, I was watching that game and I you know me, I'm all about the underdog. So it's cool to see it. Like,
not the Brewers. We're not about the Brewers. We're all about the underdog and the Cubs here. Whatever.
How many World Series do the Brewers have? Okay, I gotta.
They got a whopping 0, man, and you can't cheer for them. I mean, come on.
I'll cheer for them then. All right, you got me there.
We need a 30 for 30 on Shohei Ohtani scandal when we come back. I want to watch a full-on 30 for 30 on the scandal. That would be awesome. Just like The Last Dance, but Shohei Ohtani, the scandal. And we just hear from every side, and it's all in some Korean. We got to listen to it in Korean, so we got to have a translator to tell us what they're saying. Like, it'd be fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to have, like, the whistleblower in, silhouette form, can't see their face, the voices change, and you're just like, oh, now we're legit. Now it's a legit scandal.
We see a picture of Shohei in a trench coat and a top hat just walking down the street in LA. You're just like, that's the guy. We knew it. He's a crime boss.
Look, anything can happen. Who knows? By next week, like you said, maybe we find out that Shohei is just some massive schemer, finger on the pulse of betting, or the interpreter was just going rogue, trying to profit off of him. Who knows? We'll see. But make sure you do come back next week. We go live at 9:15 to kind of get into the baseball thing, because that's how baseball loves to do it. Start times are 05 or 15. We chose 15. But like I said, Integrity Sports Network is where the show is now. So make sure you do show some love. So for myself, Trajan, and Aaron, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Catch some more March Madness, because the games usually go till like midnight. Love that. And enjoy the rest of your night. We'll see you next week. All right, we're out of here.